somebody's hands anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe,
I don't know.
but hey, there you go.
Yeah. But there was a second autopsy. Andy's body got back to Sweden December 16th, and undertakers there found more extensive bruising on her right arm and side and behind her right ear. And they also acquired a sample of Andy's bone marrow and sent it to a professor in Strasbourg to look at, and he found evidence of freshwater algae in the bone marrow, which is interesting. I had no idea how freshwater algae can get into your bone marrow. It's kind of weird, but
Yeah, it's super weird.
apparently it was there. That led to speculation that Andy was drowned somewhere else and then dumped on the beach. But I've actually read testimony from other experts who say that it's much more likely that she got the algae from just drinking contaminated tap water, and that it probably entered her system long before her death.
It would
Take a while to travel there.
Yeah.
It would. Yeah, that's
to
what I'm
get to your
thinking.
bone marrow?
It would take a long time to get there. That's why another reason I totally
Yeah.
don't
Yeah, I
think
was like,
this whole
unless you had
drowning
a
in fresh
broken
water.
bone in the water, this
Yeah, no, I don't.
seems strange.
And she didn't have any broken bones.
Yeah.
I would also say that it's not really that startling to say there were more bruises found on her, given that there was more time and the blood would have settled and she was moved. And it's not that startling.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it might be that.
Bruising is one of those things that you can I trust an initial medical examiner on, because it's real hard to miss. You wouldn't be like, oh, surprise, 2 months later, there's this bruise that we totally missed on her thigh. I mean, it's an easy thing to notice. It's one thing to say, oh, we didn't notice that her heart arteries were mildly inflamed. It's another to say, there was this huge bruise on her side that we totally missed. Right? Right?
Yeah.
Right?
These things are generally pretty obvious at the outset. And I could be wrong. It's different from place to place. But the things that I've read about it is, they do standard examinations, and there's methods to determine if they're subcutaneous bruising to try and pick that up, because of course the bruise won't really grow. So I don't know. It's hard to say what the differences are, especially from country to country, let alone what we're used to, which is from state to state.
That's true. And also, let's not forget the coroners who actually were doing the autopsy in Scotland. They were speaking, you've seen it on TV, they speak into a microphone.
Right.
And they were speaking in what? A Scottish brogue.
Right.
So whoever was transcribing probably couldn't understand half of what they were saying. Yeah.
Oh, bad
Oh, just
man.
kidding, guys. Just
You're
kidding.
a bad man.
No, I love you guys. I love Scottish brogues.
Sorry, I'm just reading on Google again, because, that's my thing.
Oh, yeah. The Google.
That according to a fair number of studies, this one I'm reading is on PubMD, or PubMed. Sorry, that's a reasonably solid source.
Okay.
It's that they've done studies, and bruise-like discolorations can appear after death.
Mm-hmm. No, I've heard the same thing. So
It's reasonable to say.
Yeah.
Not to beat a dead horse or anything.
No, don't beat away. But nonetheless, Annie's family is not convinced that she even died from drowning. Apparently, there's still tissue samples in the possession of both the Scottish and Swedish governments, but they're refusing to release them for examination by independent experts. And I don't know why, because they could put this whole thing to rest, frankly.
They may very well, I hate to sound insensitive, but not care.
Well, it might
We
be.
talk about this with other mysteries where we say it'd be really easy if they would just do this thing, but for them it's closed. They don't care.
Yeah, they don't, maybe. And they're probably totally convinced that it just was drowning. I mean, it's not outrageous. You're found a dead body on the beach. I mean,
With water in the lungs.
yeah, it does appear that the investigation and the autopsy were kind of cursory.
Yeah.
It does seem like they could have probably been a little more thorough. It really does look like the police just immediately assumed that it was drowning and it was either an accident or a suicide, and they never really pursued it as even possibly being a murder, which I think is probably fair enough, even though it's quite likely that it is just an accidental drowning. They probably should have kept their minds a little more open. Oh yeah, there was another mystery. Annie had waist-length hair, and when the body got back to Sweden, almost all of it had been cut off.
Which is odd.
Really odd.
Weird. That's really
Odd.
weird.
That was cut off in a really random way, too. It wasn't cut off evenly. It was cut off in locks. They just grabbed a bunch and cut it off, and so she wound up with some locks of hair coming from her scalp about 5 centimeters out, and others about 15, 16 centimeters.
It really
That's
makes me think.
really weird.
It makes me think of the little boy that gets a hold of his sister's Barbie and just starts hacking the hair with scissors. That's exactly what it makes, because it always kind of has that random tuft appearance.
Yeah,
That's what it makes me think of.
It's totally twisted, sick serial killer kind of behavior.
I mean, it's like, I know you're making
Weirdo
a joke,
trophy.
but frankly, it is a little weird.
Well, yeah, it is. No, it's definitely weird.
And I can't explain it away.
No, I can't really either. But at the first autopsy in Scotland, they reported in the report that her hair was long, because it was long. So
And they didn't mention it was weird in weird appearance. Because even, I mean, she had really, really long hair, so even cutting, inches off of it, it would still appear long.
Yeah, but cutting so much that there's only 5 centimeters coming out of that's not long now. So yeah, Annie didn't cut her hair, obviously. If she was murdered, the murderer couldn't have cut it. The funeral undertakers in London said they had cut a little bit off of her hair to make it look more presentable. They said 4 to 5 centimeters.
That's like 2 inches.
Yeah.
By the way, for
inch and a half.
For us Americans, it's 5 centimeters is 1.9 inches. So.
Yeah, and Annie was due for a haircut, so she probably did have some uneven ends.
Yeah, but
and so they just trimmed them off a little bit. And,
you would think just in one fell swoop there shouldn't have been a.
Yeah, and so that's what they said they did, and then they shipped it off to Sweden, and somewhere between there and when the family saw the body, somebody grabbed a bunch of hair.
That's really weird.
It's like somebody wanted to make a wig.
Well, no, I kind of wonder, is that one of the things that's required when you transport a body internationally is that you embalm it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that necessarily the folks that did the medical examination on the body and the folks that embalmed it were the same.
Mm-hmm.
Could it?
So I wonder if you kind of hit the nail on the head. Where I was heading here, Joe, is that they went, well, we did our job here, and I'm a couple $100 short.
Yeah.
And I know I've got this wig business on the side.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Or you can sell it.
Yeah,
too.
and just pack it off, and nobody will ever be able to track it down. Nobody will even notice, except that in this case, they totally did.
Somebody did.
Yeah, I mean, except that it's so much easier to just gather in one handful and cut, and it turns out okay. I mean, I've donated hair enough.
Greed. One word, greed.
I guess it's just easier to manage when you are shipping it off. Then you just you don't send a bag of hair. It has to be.
Well, you don't, but I do.
Okay, well, you don't have hair, so.
Yeah,
this is why I keep sending off bagfuls of it.
Okay.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, that is weird. Also, the other question I guess I have is, when you embalm a body, can you do an autopsy on it?
You do the autopsy prior?
But
once
if
you
the
embalm
second
them.
autopsy happened in Sweden on December 6th.
And that secondary autopsy would have suffered because of the fact that the body had been embalmed.
And the body had also just deteriorated. I mean, because it had been a couple of weeks. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure
remember
you can still figure some stuff out.
When the body got to. Am I correct in this, Joe, or am I confusing this with another story?
Yeah.
That some of her internal organs were actually in bags. They were no longer in the body. Is that right, or am I mixing that up with a different embalming story?
I don't remember with this one actually. I don't remember if
I remember there was some weirdness about the whole embalming process, and of course, whenever you do it, you screw up anything. But
They do that. I've read, because there's another case that I'm really interested in that has to do with some weirdness with autopsies, but they pull the organs out and bag them and stick them back in the body cavity.
Okay.
But that's a normal thing.
Okay. I remember reading that and kind of had a WTF moment.
Yeah, because you don't want, you've got all these organs and they've, got fluids and stuff.
And they're not going to get the embalming fluid in them, so that makes sense.
So you just stick them in bags back
Totally
in the
makes
body.
sense. Onwards and upwards here.
Oh, God. Something creepy about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going to get cremated.
Yeah, I'm thinking I might get cremated, too. Although that's hundreds of years down the line, so I'm not going to worry about it yet.
Fair.
Yeah. I made a pact with the devil.
That's what that portrait is.
Yeah, hey, Satan.
Okay, Dorian.
Let me give you a shout out to Satan. Yeah. Of course, the Filofax was missing because, again, she never went anywhere without it. She did keep money in it, so if she was murdered, maybe robbery was the murder motive. What else happened? And then in the aftermath of the death and everything, some other strange things happened. Annie's mom went out to her Hotmail account and found that everything had been wiped. All the emails had been deleted, sent, and received.
And do we have any sense if that was atypical?
It turns out, in a lot of the accounts of this, you read that. And again, in this interview Guya that I listened to, she said that a lot of stuff has been deleted.
Yeah, so like I guess for me, I'm just guessing that Annie was a fellow Type A personality, given that she has a file of facts that she carries around with her, and like most Type B personalities don't do that. And I am a militant inbox zero person. I file away or delete all of my emails. If there's more than like 3 or 4 emails in my account, I get really stressed out. You guys know this because you manage an email account with me.
Yeah, I know.
If it's not starred, it's got to be filed immediately. And so it wouldn't surprise me to know that that's just how she managed her email account anyway.
Oh yeah, I don't
freak out when you saw my email account that has emails from 2010 in the just the inbox section still.
Yeah, mine's that way too. But
they're red. I'm keeping them. I know what they are, but oh, the look on your face.
They go in filed or nowhere.
Wow. Yeah, that's probably a good system. Maybe someday I'll adopt that.
Yeah, you're the man with 1,000 unread emails.
Yeah, I know.
I've seen your inbox.
I know. But
So
anyway,
anyway,
I'm glad that I listened to that interview with Guya because every account you read of this, her Hotmail account was totally wiped, but she just said that a lot of stuff was missing. A lot of stuff that she expected should be there was not there.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And so, but
I go either way on that.
yeah, her friend for some reason was wanting to put her phone records, and because she had been talking back and forth with Annie between Sweden and Scotland, and she said that phone calls in both directions were just not recorded. They were not. They were not there.
That's right. They just weren't on the
disappeared.
register.
They weren't on the bill.
The phone company.
Yeah. So
well, okay. I mean, I guess, and they were definitely from the cell phone.
I mean, sure.
I guess presumably too, you would know what phone number you were calling, but I guess we talked about her using the payphone a lot for international calls. So I guess
but still, even the incoming calls should have been incoming
calls
to the cell phone should have been on the cell phone.
They should have, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So why that's not there?
That is weird.
I mean, the only thing that I could even remotely think that would explain it is because porting your phone number was becoming available at that time, where you could take it from carrier A to carrier B, but that is just such a random thing to have just coincided with when she did it, that I doubt that's the case.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, so the phone record's missing, I don't know, but this adds up to all the stuff, the missing emails, the missing phone calls. And then Maria, is it Jansen or Janssen, her friend?
Janssen,
okay, Janssen. Maria Janssen started getting creepy phone calls. You pick the phone rings, you pick it up, and there's silence on the other end. And
was that her friend that asked for the phone records?
Yeah.
Is that how that connects? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier. Yeah,
I think I mentioned
Maria Janssen's name earlier. Yeah, that was a friend that had talked to her a lot on the phone and was looking for the phone records, and they were gone, missing. She was getting these mysterious phone calls, and eventually somebody put forward a theory that sort of like ties all this stuff up, why this weird stuff was happening, and which is that Annie Bergeson's full name is Annie Christina Bergeson, and there's a journalist whose name is Christina Borgeson. So it's spelled exactly the same, except it doesn't have the 2 little dots over the O at the beginning there. So so Annie Christina Bergeson and Christina Borgeson, who was a journalist who had been investigating extraordinary renditions that were being run through Prestwick Airport. In other words, CIA planes were landing in Prestwick, refueling, stopping over, and then taking off to go on their way. Yeah. Do I need to explain extraordinary rendition?
Yes.
Okay. Rendition is this. So, like, if the U.S. government takes into custody a known terrorist, for example, they might find themselves a little short on jail space, and so, or maybe they've got to get a cell ready for them. So while they're getting a cell redecorated, we might ask our friends the Saudis, or maybe the Jordanians, or the Egyptians, or somebody, to just look after them for a little while. And then, of course, while they're in custody over there, then they might decide to ask them a few questions, punctuated by the occasional, application of a hot poker, kind of thing, or the extraction of a fingernail. So that's what rendition is.
Shock, I gotcha.
Yeah, that's what rendition is. Yeah,
some light drowning.
Yeah, a little waterboarding, and so
some overhydration, if you will.
Yeah. So that's rendition, and then of course eventually we finish with the cell remodel, and then we get them back. But
I see.
Yeah, so
I guess for all of my, like, buying into government conspiracy theories, didn't realize that was a thing that we did.
you didn't know that?
No, I didn't. Steve's looking at me like I'm a crazy person.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
not a synth. I haven't, like, been replaced. I just didn't know that happened.
Okay.
I mean, it makes total sense now that you say it, but I didn't know that that was a thing.
Well, you know, that's the whole thing. It's like, you know, we can't really do that stuff over here, so we just say, hey guys, why don't you take care of these guys for a while, you know, and just
I'm gonna go get a Coke from the machine. Anybody want anything? I'll be back in 2 days.
yeah, I'm gonna get a Coke from the machine now. It's at the far end of the building, and I won't be able to hear a thing that's going on in here. Yeah. So anyway, that's the whole story pretty much. A mysterious death, creepy email and phone call stuff, and a CIA. A journalist who had the same name, and the theory is that it was a case of mistaken identity. Like a CIA or MI5, MI6 hit squad took out Annie,
wrong.
thinking that she was this journalist, Christina Borgeson.
Did they look similar at all?
Well,
Do you know?
I'll talk about
Okay.
that.
I was gonna say, are we gonna go straight into that theory, or
Yeah.
where do you want to start here?
Well, let's
There's a
start
good
with
number of theories.
Yeah, we can start with suicide by drowning.
Because that's the official line.
Yeah, of course. You know, she obviously didn't commit suicide immediately when she was seen at the seashore at 4:30, which, by the way, that probably wasn't her. But there's no evidence that she was suicidal, and of course,
That's a weird way to kill yourself.
it is. It's been done, and she would. She
Especially
couldn't have waited out to sea at that time because, like you said earlier, she had alcohol in her bloodstream. She had to go somewhere and get a
Go
drink.
somewhere. Yeah, so she
Yeah.
couldn't have done it at 4:30.
Yeah.
And then you go somewhere, you get a drink, an hour and a half passes because, you know, it's unsafe to swim. So you get
Yeah.
drunk, anything.
Tide's
And
gonna
then-
have started to come back in because around 4:30 it was low tide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like when the tide is coming in, it's harder to kill it, right? It's easier if there's like a rip tide and it's going out,
Mhm.
just drag you out to sea and it's like fine, whatever,
Yeah.
you're done. But if the tide's coming in, it seems like it would be harder. That's
Yeah.
just like a layman's, probably really uneducated version of how things work. But also, she was a really strong swimmer, and people's, you know, instinct to live does kick in. It's very documented. It kicks in.
Yeah, it's.
I have a
even
hard- I
fully
struggle.
clothed, she would have had to wade a long
far.
way out, and really,
And be really determined.
yeah,
right? Like, really
I don't believe. I have a hard time believing that that's what she did because, like we've talked about, automatic reactions just kick in, even though you're
Yeah.
fully clothed
Yeah.
and your clothes are soaked and they're going to weigh you down.
she was a strong
It's
swimmer.
so shallow that it seems like it would be easy to just dog paddle all the way in and then suddenly be able to walk again.
Yeah.
Because the seawall, Joe and I, you and I talked about this yesterday. The seawall, at its high point there where she was found, is what, a meter high?
See, well, no, it's more than a meter high. I mean, because typically at high tide, it's usually about a meter deep.
Okay, that's where I got
So
the
the
1 meter.
seawall is more than a meter high.
So we'll just say the seawall is a meter and a half.
A couple
2
of
meters.
meters high, you know. But,
Okay, well, but if the water's only a meter deep, it's only a meter deep.
Yeah, you can still drown yourself in that. Yeah. I mean,
But
that
again, you gotta work
ocean is
really
filled
hard
with
at that.
deadly dihydrogen monoxide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really deadly.
Yeah, I mean, if she came back and say wanted to kill herself, she could have done it. But again, she wouldn't have taken her bags with her
No, and she
and
would
her
have,
jacket.
and she probably would have gotten sloshed, right? I mean, you would assume she would have way more alcohol or something.
True, you're gonna kill yourself. You might as well go out in style. You know, party down. Yeah.
Well, but if you're not a big drinker, I don't think that necessarily would be the mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, I would see. Okay, if from what I know about Annie, I would say, being as you said, kind of the type A, she's a strong swimmer. For whatever reason, she's decided to end it all. In this situation, she would swim. She would swim to the horizon.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Swim
you
until
get
she was
so
too
far
exhausted.
out that you're so tired that even when your instinct kicks in, you can't make it back.
Yeah, but then it
But
seems
the
unreasonable
bags
to, well,
and the clothes.
Exactly. So
I'm a swimmer. The last thing I want to have on is a bunch of clothes because I can't get as far.
well, and
can't
on
get
top
anywhere.
of that, if she's that far out, doesn't it seem unreasonable that her body would have washed ashore as early as that morning?
oh yeah, for
It
sure.
would have sunk and then washed ashore
Right.
days later.
Yeah, I'm
And-
assuming
and-
that she was smart enough to come back at high tide and jump in then and start swimming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I
even
mean-
then, I mean, it's
Because the mermaids aren't going to put her clothes back on her for modesty's sake.
Mhm.
I mean, it just
Yeah.
it doesn't. The whole thing doesn't make sense to me. Is where I'm going.
Oh no, I'm sure it wasn't suicide. No. Yeah. Well, let's move on to our next theory. If you guys are anything more on suicide.
no, I'm done
no,
with
sorry.
Yeah, no, I think I think a suicide is a pretty lame explanation.
I agree.
So it could have been an accident. So let's assume that Annie went and had a drink or two, and came back at a later time.
I'm willing to say with that BAC, 2 drinks over the course of an hour is
Yeah.
really the most. Because right after you die, this, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But once you're dead, your BAC stops degrading, right?
Yeah, as far as I know.
So
Your body stops breaking it down because it's
metabolizing it.
not processing
right.
anything.
So it would have been the maximum that she really would have had is like 2 drinks 2 hours ago.
Yeah. So she's not hammered, but
No.
you know, she's feeling maybe a little tipsy.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. So later on that night, it's high tide. There's some water down there. Andy goes down to the seawall, jumps up on it, and shouts, "I'm the king of the world!" and then loses her balance, falls in the water. Average temperature of the sea in the area at that time of year is about 8 degrees centigrade or 46 degrees Fahrenheit, which is cold.
Cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite
Or
cold.
like, the average temperature of the Oregon coast.
Yeah, exactly. But humans have a reflex which causes them to inhale sharply if you're suddenly and unexpectedly immersed in very cold water. It kills a lot of rafters and kayaks, and I personally experienced it myself one time.
Yeah,
And,
it's scary.
have you experienced that?
Yeah.
I did too. I was in a raft, and it was like April on the Sandy River, and the water was damn cold. And we got dumped in the water, and I just went like that. And luckily, my face was above water, but damn,
Yeah,
I was
it's
like,
scary.
oh yeah. But a lot of people, it doesn't work out so well.
No,
It kills a lot of people.
Yeah.
So if something like that happened, if she accidentally fell into the water, or somebody pushed her into the water, or whatever. It's entirely possible. Annie, even though being a strong swimmer, could have inhaled a bunch of water
Yeah.
and just drowned.
Well, there's
That's
also to run along that. Let's not just say necessarily that she was at the seawall because we're making a presumption that she was at the seawall because somebody saw that person who has been identified as her at the seawall.
Wasn't she found?
Bear with me here. The thing that I looked at is so at that time of year they're getting about 4 inches of rain, and I pulled up the maps, the flood maps for that area, and just north of where she's found is the Pow Burn, which is a smaller creek river that runs underneath the airport and then pops out kind of north of where she was. And then there's the bigger river, which now I cannot think of. I know the creek name, but I can't think of the bigger river that's right there.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking
But
about.
it's entirely possible that she could have been, walking over a bridge or goofing around on the banks for whatever reason and went in there. That water would have been high enough to wash her out into the surf. And in that area, the